Mike.
I am amazing, Sherry. I'm even better now that I'm here with you.
Hey, I think that you wanted to go ahead and share this on your page.
Yeah.
So while you're doing that, I'm just going to admire your jacket and invite everyone else who's here
Oh, well, thank you so much.
to admire your jacket. And yeah,
I thought I would bring a little good news to the world today by wearing this one.
I love it. So you do what you need to do while we talk about, or I guess I do, because now there's no one to talk about for a minute. But while I talk about how one of the things I love best about you is that you always have these amazing jackets that do bring the joy. You wear the clothes, and you don't have to respond to me because I know you're sharing this right now. But Mike, you always go out of your way to show up with that pizzazz. I don't know if you're wearing shoes right now, but sometimes your shoes are very special too. But we won't put you on the spot with your shoes.
They're not too crazy today, but I actually got slippers on. No, I just have my.
Yeah.
They're all right.
I've got bare feet. I was going to show you, but it's too. I'll knock over my computer if I show you my bare feet.
That's all right. Well, you're relaxing. That's what's good. I like that about you. Calm, relaxed in the storm.
So are you still doing what you're doing over there, or are you?
I'm trying to share it, Sherry, but for whatever reason, I'm clicking on the button, and it doesn't. When things don't want to cooperate today, Sherry.
I know.
Let me try.
Well, you know what? And that's.
I just refreshed the page. Oop, you froze a second. I'm gonna try it one more time.
It's
sticking. It's kind of like sticking. Well, if it doesn't work for now, we'll just we'll continue because I don't want to hold these lovely people up that are here with us.
I know. So, and I'm just going to do a quick technology. Excuse me too for a minute. I'm switching just in case to see if I could get a better bandwidth somewhere else.
Yeah, okay. Absolutely. Yes. I had it up where it said share, and then all of a sudden it.
Mike?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, you froze on me for a minute, but now you're back. All right, here's where I want to start with you. Yeah. We're here. You and I are both certified high performance coaches. You know, I've been talking to coaches this week because I feel like what I really want to do is offer a perspective on how we're all taking care of ourselves, how we're taking care of our clients, how people can really practice, even in these most difficult of times, how people can practice positivity and hope and, dare I say, even to find some places of joy in our lives in the midst of all of this. You know, even as we're also respectful of what's going on. And of course, you know, those of us who are healthy and, you know, don't have anybody near us who's sick or dying, it's a whole different circumstance. And I just want to respect that. Yeah. But there are people who I think could also just use, like you said, a dose of good news.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I figured I would bring this one. I haven't worn this one for a little bit because the news has, you know, can take things, I think, and put a lot of stress on.
Oh, Mike, you're freezing. You're back
there?
Yeah.
Yeah, the phone rang over here. I don't know how to get that to stop. Somebody was calling in. They can wait because this is more important than anything. I was about to get good for a second.
I know. I could tell. You kept us in suspense.
I know, and really, honestly, we're living in this time where I was telling people this week that I believe it's going to be stress that's going to take more people out than this coronavirus, and then the stress of people losing their jobs and the way they handle those things that are leading to suicides and things like this. These are things we don't ever want to talk about. But, you know, it's that I think is going to take more people out than this actual virus because of where we're worrying and stressed. And I understand that part of it. And we don't want to take it light, right?
Right.
Because it's not anything to take light. But also I know the flip side when we get so being a videographer for 23 years prior to me getting sick, and you know a little bit about my story, you know, I actually kind of went through this whole quarantine myself, so I'm kind of familiar with this. For 4 years, I was actually I couldn't get out of a bed, and doctors didn't give me a chance to live. So I understand
4
what it's
years.
like. 4 years, 4 years, and they actually brought me back to life at one point, and so I understand what this quarantine, and now the world's kind of on a whole dealing with this, and maybe they aren't walking through like where I was, or there's a lot of people that are going through that where they're sick and they're, but I mean, I think what's happening that I'm seeing is that the hope of this all is that it brings people closer together, and that's kind of what I'm starting to see a little bit more of, that we're kind of coming together as a family in the world in general to say, hey, how can we help each other, how can we support each other um, through all of this, um, and there is a way to do that. It's when the media, being a videographer, I understand how you can take news and media and you can bring hype to really get people scared and worried, and that part alone will be the part that I think, like I said, is really going to get people and people like us coaches, and that's why I think this is so powerful what we do as a coach to help people to walk through these areas, to be able to give them the tools to be able to cope in times like this it's a very powerful thing.
Yeah. Well, there's two things you just said that I'd like to talk a little more about. One is, you're right, like the stress. And there's the illness and all of the people who are ill and all the people who know them who are dealing with that. And then there's the loss of jobs and the loss of social interaction. And we could spend this whole time talking about the number of losses going on that are causing that stress. So there's that. And then you also talked about the connection, and how this is also, oddly and ironically, because we're, at least where I am, we're all in isolation, but that there's a sense of people coming together. And I think that's so interesting, right? Because one of the ways that we do combat stress is by being together.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'd love to know, like, how are you seeing that? How are you seeing people coming together?
Well, what I'm seeing is for me personally, I'm reaching out to different people and just sharing my heart with them, as I have been for once I realized that was my purpose in life, was to just continue to bring hope, bring joy, bring to choose faith over fear for in my life, and so because it was easy to go the other way, to say, okay, this is it, I'm just going, because I easily could have not been here if I would have choose to do that. And I think a lot of people today could do that. They can say, well, hey, I just throw my hands up, there's nothing I can do, oh my God, the world's ending, and there's that way you can go. Or you can say, hey, I have faith, I believe this is happening for a reason, and what is that reason? Find and dig deeper, right? And is it to bring people together? Is it for me to slow down and look at the things I need to be doing better in my life? Is it that I need to spend more time with my kids? That I need to be home? If we're not getting the message, I believe, of why this is happening, and this comes and goes, we've missed it. I think we've missed it.
Wow.
And there's going to be a lot of people that this is going to come and go, and they're going to miss it. And then the next thing is going to come. I know Brendan had talked about this, and it was so powerful. He said, I can't remember his exact wording, but he said something about, how he used the word hammer, but you're going to get hit with the hammer, and then you're going to get smacked with the hammer, something, the train's going to come, or something of that sense. And I know for me, that train came. I was getting hit, I was getting nudged, and I knew I needed to move. I think there's a lot of people out here listening that they maybe need to move. There's something that they need to do, and they're shaken up. And maybe if we ask ourselves, like, what is that thing? Where do we need to go? Where are we being called? But I'm seeing people like a friend of mine, and she probably will watch this, Melissa. She's a teacher, and she is found that, what does she do? She's looking for her purpose, and that she's doing some online things for kids now, as a teacher, and doing these amazing things. That she's building a YouTube page for kids at home because the parents are struggling with the kids at home. So she's doing all this fun activities to help teach these kids from home on a YouTube page. So people are stepping up, and she's one of them. And I've been helping her with some things, kind of giving her some thoughts on videos and how she's doing it, being a prior videographer.
Yeah.
And things like that we all could help and step up to find ways where we can't be all together right now, but we can still make it work from being in a distance. yet until we all come back together stronger than ever before.
Yeah, yeah. Mike, and I love what you were saying about, that question. Like, we could even say, like, what is this for me right now? Or what's in this for me right now? Or what can I learn about myself and my life right now? I've been thinking a lot about, I've always been an advocate for self-reflection and introspection, asking, as coaches, of course, right? Questions are so important in our work. And the space, it's not just the questions, but it's having the space to hold the questions. And I feel like that space is here for us if we're interested in taking that right now. And that question of what could be here for me right now is so powerful, right?
Yeah.
And like your story about Melissa, and I'm so fortunate. I could tell you 100 stories right now because I've been so focused on collecting these stories of what people are doing, that so many people have already stepped up into a place of service and places within themselves that they didn't even really know were there, of community and or teaching or serving in somehow that never occurred to them before, but it is now already.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. That is beautiful. And that's what I'm seeing. And if you're looking for these things, I think you're going to see them.
Right.
But so much like as we know, what you focus on, you find. So if you're focusing on all of that attention to, and I'm saying, we want to focus on what we need to take the precautions, but yet, just focus on what you really can take from this in a whole. Because I'm finding some amazing things out of this whole, out of this. Even though there's a lot of people, and I have every reason to be at this point really scared in general, because my wife works in the medical field where they have cases right now. And, we even couldn't have our grandkids here, which we watch our grandkids, because they're saying, at her clinic, don't bring any other, family around you, than other who's in the house and that kind of thing. So, I mean, but I have this peace, that surpasses all understanding, that it is what it is. And we can't control that. But I know from living in the past, stress will kill us more than this virus, and it will lower our immune system, and then you will be more susceptible to actually, to have something happen.
Yeah. I just remembered something that I wanted to ask you about, because before we logged in, before we went live, I was commenting on how beautiful your background is and your space. And I think
Yeah.
this is something I haven't actually talked to anybody about yet at all. But it really struck me that you've created, it says Imagine up there, and I know you've got some inspirational books. It looks like there's just different things to inspire you. You could talk a little bit more about it, but how important that is. And I'd love to hear, it was this intentional right now, what you've created?
Yeah, I mean, this whole, office space has been. I always want to be inspired, and that's what I do to inspire others. So having going back in my life, from when I was even 10 to 17, and at 17 ready to take my life, but there was a rough part in my life. So there's always been that point of hope. Um, and that's where my grandma had playing hope, a message of hope on her TV, and I heard it, and that's what stopped me from taking my life that day. Um, and so it all goes kind of back to that I've always had this inspiring, um, part of me inside from back then. And then I got sick, and for those 4 years where doctors didn't give me a chance to live, and at one point, I mean, that whole journey was just, that was a whole quarantine. So this whole what's happening now, I kind of relate to it in a whole different way. So I think it's enabled me to help other people. But this room, I always wanted to have things that inspire me. So even when I'm on my coaching calls, I'm looking up and I'm just sharing things with people. Like something will pop in my head, like in front of me right here says, "Let your faith be bigger than your fear." That's sitting right in front of my computer. I have, right up on this side, I would try to turn to it. Let's see if I can get it here. I don't know.
You're so brave.
Let's see if I can twist it back up here. But right up on the wall right there it says, "Today is a new day. You can start fresh, wipe the slate clean, begin again, embrace kindness, practice compassion, stand up for justice, talk to strangers, ask for help, listen with your whole heart, offer hope, work for what is that? I need glasses. I should be wearing my glasses. Love well, be the change you wish to see in the world.
Wow.
And so, and it's things like that, um, that I've been. And then on the other side over there is be still and know. That is a big one for me because I think we all, if we just be still during this time and just know that in the end it will be okay. Just to take that time to be still. And I love, like, when we coach and we talk about that release meditation, we help what Brendan has given, it's so powerful, just even for that little time to help people just to release during times of stress, right?
Oh, Mike. Yeah. I don't want to interrupt you because I think it's so beautiful what you're saying, but I am reading a book right now by Glennon Doyle called Untamed, which is an amazing book. She has a chapter on be still and know.
Yeah.
And I love that you just brought that up because it resonated so much with me when I was reading what she was saying and also what you're saying, because when we're still, we hear whatever it is you believe in, whether you your higher self, you believe it's God, you believe it's nature, whatever, divine, call it what you want, call it what you want. When we're still, we do hear that voice. And we know. Not from trying to figure it out up here. From my experience, it's just, we just know what's in our hearts.
Amen. I know. It's like, if we aren't still, and then this rat race is so easy to not be still. Yes. But when you just take that breath and just say, okay, that's why I still went thinking about what is it that we're supposed to take from this. And it's easy to not think like that in a time like this. It's easy to say, where am I going to get my next toilet paper from? Where am I going to get my water? But if you're still and know that you will have these things, it'll be okay. That's when the peace comes in that you can never imagine how quiet. And I understand when you walk through something, it's a lot easier, but that's where the people that have walked through something can help those around. And I know certainly, Sherry, you've been through some things. I know your story, and you are such a blessing to the world. And I just have something sitting right here I want to share too, because I think that this is beautiful. Because I think a lot of people during this time right now, they just need to say it now. Okay? Because we never know what tomorrow brings.
Wow.
And if they don't say it now, we don't know that tomorrow, if it is our last. I always told people when I stood by that bed after 4 years and I didn't know if my life was over, because I figured we all got to go sometime, right? And for me, I actually thought that was going to be it for me. And even though I have good faith, I believe, I stood by the bed and I said, and my belief is God, and I respect whatever everybody believes. I don't push my faith on anybody. But I said, if it is my time to go, I'm ready. Because I don't know what else I could do. I mean, for 4 years, I was going back and forth and they couldn't figure out what's wrong. But I said, if you have another purpose and plan for my life, to please show me what it is. And I will go on serving that. And that's when the doors opened up. It was being still. And I laid down that night and never thought I was going to wake back up. Not that I didn't have faith, but it was just that so much had happened. And I know that there's things that we just need to say now. And that was something I knew I needed to say that night. And there's somebody out there that needs to hear this, that they need to say something maybe to their loved one. They need to say something to their kids. They need to say something to their neighbor. This is a time that we need to wake up and we need to say some things.
Mike, thank you. Thank you for that. You know how much I appreciate.
And guys, Sherry didn't know that. Sherry didn't know. This isn't a promotion for Sherry's book at all. Just so you guys know that. I felt this on my heart to say that, because when Sherry asked me to be on here, to be honest, that was on my heart. I just was thinking, man, this is beautiful. This book is beautiful, and it's what we really do need to say at a time right now. We need to say the ththings that we really feel, and I just felt like I wanted to share that.
I so appreciate that, and as you know, like, right, this is my legacy message, right? If every time I hear the story of someone who writes a love letter to someone in their life, they tell their mother all the things they're grateful for about their childhood, whatever it is, to me, that just makes me so happy. And you're right, like, it's always the time, but now more than ever. And also, I mean, back to what we were saying about connection, like, I do really feel a lot of people have more time right now than they've had because we're not going out. We're not, we're not filling our lives with social activities for sure. A lot of people aren't driving to work. We do have a little more time. And I am hoping that people will use that time however it looks to be able to connect, whether it's a voice note or a letter or video chats with people, or, my niece and I are going to set up we've got the same game, board game, and we're going to try and do a video board night, board game night, whatever we can do to really connect with each other. So I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah.
I love that.
It's just everything you're saying, I feel fits together in that way, right? That it's like, again, I understand that people are scared,
Oh, yeah.
I am too, right? We're all,
yeah.
There's anxiety. We don't know what's happening. There's a little chaos in the world. There's a lot to grieve.
Yes.
And yet, and I think this is why I wanted to talk to coaches, because I think a lot of what we're trained to do is come from a place of, yes, and right. It really is that all of that's going on and there's nothing wrong with it. And we can recognize it and we can support people and people can be, offered comfort and love. And I think there is also an opportunity for us to love better, to connect better, to take care of the earth better, to look inside ourselves and see, wow, what is there that I want to learn right now? Or what do I want to turn my attention to? Do I want to keep it in the news? Do I want to keep riveted to my phone and the screens? Or do I want to actually try and do something that makes me feel good?
Right. I love that. That's beautiful. Yeah. I mean, having something that makes you feel good is going to take your attention away from all what's going on around us, which I love that you shared that, because honestly, that's what I think will help so many people if they can just take that attention off of what's kind of going on in a whole. Obviously, keep to know what we need to know, to be alert and to be in tune with what's happening, so we're not left in the dark. But in the same note, to not get so caught up that we are so worried to where we get sick without having the coronavirus, to where we're stressed, anxiety so much that's taking us down.
Yeah, yes. And the other thing I know for myself is that if I do anything at all, if I read a book or I take a bath or I just walk outside or I hold my cats or talk to someone I love, whatever it is that makes me feel just a little better, I feel like the well gets filled up, right?
Yeah.
And then and I talked about this to a lot of people this week about that, then I feel more generous. I feel as if I have more to give. I feel like I have more creativity. And I think that that's also where, being selfish, self-care is such a support for other people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the more you take care of yourself, like you said, I love that. It makes you be able to give more of you to the world. Because if we're not taking care of ourselves, we've got nothing left in the tank to pour out.
Right.
Right? That's what I'm hearing from you, which is beautiful. And so those techniques that you have, and for me, I agree. It's really after going through all what I went through and battling to get my health and my life back, and I had to really flood my body with the proper nutrition. So I'm really big on that and taking care of those things. And I think this is a good time too for people to reflect on those things that really matter with our health too, because maybe there's some people that might have neglected that, and this might have opened up their eyes. Like, how can I really focus on that too?
Mike, that is so great. I'm glad you brought that up. Can you say a little bit more about some of these healthy habits that really do support your health?
Yeah. So for me, because me and my wife actually both, my wife has scleroderma and lupus. And so being that she has that, and I've, was diagnosed with dysautonomia, and then found out later that because my whole autonomic system was shutting down, all the parts of the body that you don't control, heart rate, blood pressure, nervous system, digestive system, just pretty much everything. And I wasn't willing to accept that those were symptoms of something greater cause. and I wanted to get to the bottom of what the root cause was, and I fought for my life, and even from a bed I still fought. And then I got to the right neurologist after I had prayed that day. um, I was led to the right neurologist. The doors opened up where I got to him, and it was over a year that it took to get into him, but his doors opened up to get me in, and I was so thankful. But I got in there, and what he did is what I wanted to share this. I think this is very important too, and it kind of relates to what we're talking about in
Yeah.
this whole coronavirus. And I shared this with somebody today, and they were like, "Wow, Mike, that's powerful." And I think this is great for people to take in. And Brendan talks about this. And right after that, I was at I think it was I was at HPA at the time. Now it's HPX, but HPA. And Brendan talked about present. That whole HPA was about presence that
Yeah.
he had about being present in our families and relationships. If you're brushing your teeth, just be there, be present. I remember him saying that, and it sticks out in my head. And it took me back to this neurologist where after 4 years of going to doctors where they were sitting in front of in front of their computer and typing away, and I'm sitting next to them. And if you've been to the doctor, you kind of know this routine. You're sitting next to them, and they're typing at the computer and looking there, and you're over here. And are you taking that? You still taking that vitamin D? You still taking that metropidol or that these pills and going through the whole list? All right, let's get you up on the chair over there for keep going through a few minutes with you. Okay, yeah. Well, let's add another medication to take care of this thing. So you're in this big hamster wheel.
Wow.
4 years, that's what I dealt with. And they were treating symptoms. All right. Then after I prayed and I stood by that bed and I was able to get into a neurologist, which was still in the medical field. He wasn't a holistic in a sense. He wasn't like outside the medical field. He worked.
Right.
I got in there and he sat down. He took his folder, not in front of the computer, but he sat there and he crossed his leg and he got right up in my face, like literally, like almost touching me. He said, "Mike, tell me about your life." And I was like, "Whoa!" I mean, immediately I just got tears. I just,
Wow.
it was like, for me, I felt like God had showed up. For me, it was like, I'm gonna be all right. And I started sharing those 4 years of what I went through and how it was like I was living trapped inside of a burning building in my own body and I couldn't get out. And I don't know how I'm still here, how I'm still living. And as I'm sharing this with him, he says, "Come over here." And he calls me over and he stares in my eyes with these glasses. They have special glasses that they look in your eyes, and his head's
Yeah.
close to mine. And he goes, the look on his face is something you don't ever want to see. He says, "Hold on 1 minute." He walks out, gets another neurologist, has him come in, and he does the same thing, has him do the same thing, a second opinion.
Right.
And he says, "What do you see?" They're talking back and forth, these two neurologists. And I'm like, this isn't good. He says, "I don't know how he's still standing here." And I'm thinking to myself, I don't either,
Wow.
but for me, it was by the grace of God. That's what I said. I'm like, and he goes, "If we don't get you in right now, you're not going to make it through the night. You have so much inflammation around your brain." And it reminded me of Brendan too, with the inflammation, the brain,
Right.
and it was, but then he said, "You mind if I pray with you right here?" And I was like, "Whoa, this is different," because, and I was fine with it, but he knew my story and everything. So it was just, this whole thing was, you couldn't have told this story. And so in that moment, my life changed because he was present. And it took me back to Brendan.
Wow.
When Brendan was talking about present, be present in here, be present in there. And I thought for 4 years, these doctors were not present. They weren't getting to the root cause because they weren't present. It was just type away, man. Yeah, get up there, look you over for, they were just going through the motions. They were just going through the motions. Get you in, get another patient in, get you in, get another patient in. And they didn't take the time to really get to know me, get to understand, get to see, and just to really dial in on me. And I say for our clients, like when you're coaching, I'm sure when you're coaching the same thing, we want to get to know them and listen to what they're saying so that you can really, if I sat here with a client and I'm just, imagine that you're just like, "Oh, okay, well, keep on talking," right? I mean, you don't get it.
No.
It's being present, it's listening. And he did it, and it changed my life. So I give that to every single person. because it changed everything about me. But that comes back to the nutrition. Then he led me on a path. He shared things. He was more, even though he was in it, he was more holistic. So he gave me holistic ways. So I flood my body with alpha lipoic acid. I flood my body with high doses of CoQ10 for the brain. But I also take Brendan's supplement now because a lot of that's in Brendan's. So I'm taking Brendan's, the one.
Yeah.
So I do that because of the brain issue that I had.
Right.
But I also have build the immune system. So because my wife also has scleroderma and lupus, that's with the immune. You got to build up that immunity. So I take stuff for that. I take a essential oil called Defense. I take and that builds up the immune system, blocks off things. I take some other products that are for to help with mood and that are more natural supplements.
Yeah.
So I take a lot of that to build up the immune system. I take high doses of vitamin D. Which doctors would never recommend the doses that I take, but I don't listen. I got my own routine, which has worked for me. And I, knock wood, I have been very healthy, which I wasn't for so long.
I know you look fantastic. You really.
Yeah, you never would have guessed that.
No, your energy, you're just, you're radiant.
Oh.
I mean, really.
You too. You have the energy, and I love that about you. Every time I see you, you have such joy, and you bring that to people, and that's infectious. So I thank you too for your joy, and that makes me joyful.
Me too. Well, we always share that. I love that about. I love whenever we see each other, and I know. I hope it's not too long till we get to see each other personally again. But this is great. So I know. I told you we'd keep it to a certain amount of time, and I could talk to you forever because this is so much fun and so much really great information. I'm just curious, Mike, is there anything that we haven't talked about that's really been on your mind right now about, caring for, like maybe how you're caring for clients or how you're caring for yourself or your family, something that you wanted to share?
I would just say, to be honest, I think what's on my heart and on my mind for everybody in the world and clients and is just to really, I love what we talk, be still and know. If I could say anything to everybody out there, just to have that in their heart, to just take this as a time to really see what this message is telling you. I think that's what's important to me. If you take nothing else from this, because I know, having lived it, through something not exactly what we're going through now, but a time like this, to be able to take something from it and say, okay, what did I learn? What did I grow from this? I think that's the most important thing that would mean the most to me. That when we look back on this time, we can either look back and go, you know what? I remember I grew closer to my family.
Yeah.
I remember I grew closer to my wife or my husband or my kids or my, that brought me together with my neighbors or whatever it may be. And that's the thing that I think that I want to share with the world is that what are we going to remember when we look back on it, and then support the ones that are suffering, the ones that are going through the tough times and their families, and how we can help to support them and love on them from a distance, obviously, with what we've got going on. But we have these online communities, like my church went to online service, so we all have, we're making it work. And make it work in the best way we can, and that way. So I think that would be my suggestions for everybody out there.
It's so great. I love that. And what dropped in for me when you were saying that is that these are the things we can be, just like that doctor said to you, like how he just put down everything and looked at you and was right there with you. I feel like that's what also we can be doing. So instead of letting the news dictate for us how we're feeling about this and what it means to us, but I love that when you told that story, and I thought about that, like we can do that for each other right now. Like, tell me what's on your heart right now. Tell me what's going on. Tell me how, when this is over, what would you want to look back and see, what impact that brought you closer to people or brought you closer to what you love doing in the world or whatever.
Yes.
Thank you, Mike.
I love that you just shared that. I love that what you just said, just the way you said it was so beautiful. Yes, because that's it. Like that doctor, like he said, he took that time And this moment right now that we're in is that exact same thing we're walking, like you said. What are we going to take? Are we going to stop and be still? Because I know when I went through it, I had to be still.
Yeah.
There was no other choice. And if you're still, guess what? When you are still, you see the birds, you see the trees, you see the grass growing, you see the people around you. Because for 23 years in that business that I had, I didn't see hardly anything. I was going and going and going and going, trying to make it, stressing and running. And you know what? There's been a lot of people out there that been doing that. And now they had to stop. And they're forced to spend time with their families. That's the sad thing when you say they're forced to.
I know.
And now they gotta say, hey, okay, it's gonna be okay, but now let me take this time to really enjoy being with my family.
Yeah.
Being with us. So yeah. I love that you shared that. That was beautiful.
Well, this is what brings me to life, right? Is what happens when we simply get together? I mean, and this is it. I think this is an example of it. What happens when we get together, even though we can't be in person, but to simply ask ourselves the questions, of how is this for you? What are you seeing? What are you noticing? What impact would you like to see? I'm so grateful to you for being willing to come on and have this conversation, because to me, this is what I think the world needs.
I agree. I thank you for having me, Sherry. I'm blessed to be on here. So I thank you for having me. And I agree. The world needs more of us just coming together, sharing our hearts, giving them love, and just saying all those great things right now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Always pleasure to talk with you, Sherry. And so we'll be seeing you soon. We'll be talking to you, obviously, more as the coming days. So
you betcha. You betcha, Mike. Take good care.
You too. Take care, dear. All right.